I was under the impression that everybody had to let the council and authorities know if they were going to take their child out of school. And whilst I did have to let the school know and deregister my children, I didn't necessarily have to tell the authorities, which is what they're saying. Basically, at the moment, the schools do it for you. You let them know, you deregister your child, and the school then tells the authorities. What they're proposing here is that parents themselves are responsible for notifying the council that they're taking their children out of education or they're educating their children in a less conventional way. The problem for me with this solution is, for those of us who are honest and want to do things right and do want to be regulated as home educators, we're already going to notify the authorities and the councils and let them know. For those who don't want that recognition and are trying to do something that's maybe not in the best interests of the child, are not going to voluntarily put themselves on this register. So it just seems like a load of rubbish to me. I mean, I don't understand...
But I don't think it's rubbish, but I think the government's got very good intentions. I think legally, every parent has the right to educate their own child. So they're not trying to take that away. What they are trying to do is have some sort of control over quality, because for every parent who might be doing the best for their child, there might be other parents who, as you say, haven't got their child's interests at heart, and Ofsted's already worried about the incredible growing number of schools which are entirely outside the system, which are basically illegal. And some parents might be sending their children to these illegal schools, but telling the council and telling the local authority, I'm home educating my child.
This is a problem. Those parents who are doing things that are illegal is a problem. But Ofsted, for me, let's get it right. They're estimated 60,000 children being home educated at the moment, and a percentage of those children may be being home educated in a wrong, illegal way, which does need to be dealt with. But the reality is there are nearly 500 state schools that have been rated either inadequate or requiring improvement in every Ofsted inspection from 2005 to 2018. That could affect as many as 500,000 pupils. So tell me why Ofsted, our government, and our resources aren't being put into these children's and the schools that exist and the education that needs help at the moment, and why we're worrying about
but taking your children out of school isn't improving schools, and also taking your children out of school is an economic choice that only some people some people can afford. People might find their children are at failing schools, but they can't afford to home educate them. What I feel about home education is it creates a two-tier system. And obviously there are some children with special needs who parents have every good intention about educating them at home because they are not being offered correct schooling under the state system. I personally do not agree with homeschooling at all, unless your child has special needs and special requirements, because I don't think you're equipping your children to deal with things in life like people you don't get on with, other kids who might bully you. You've got to teach your children resilience. Yeah. And you've got to... Resilience is a big part of growing up. And, I find that children who are home educated, they're living in a pampered, enclosed world.
I could just butt in just for 1 second. I actually agree with you on that side, because I think that the socialisation at school is really important for children. You have to take the rough with the smooth, and it's a good life lesson. However, on the special needs side, and I think it's worthwhile pointing out to the viewer that there are different reasons why people homeschool. Some people do it by choice. I mean, I have a cousin who's a professor herself, and she decided her choice. She wanted all 3 children to be homeschooled. However, she not only stuck to the curriculum, but she travelled every cheap flight she could get abroad. She took the children travelling, so for geography, language, experience, etc. And then there's another friend of mine at the minute whose child has had mental issues for the last couple of years. Now, what I was very impressed by the system is the fact that that child is now getting 5 hours free schooling, but from the authorities every single day. So she doesn't have to pay for that. So there are many different levels of this homeschooling.
There definitely are many different levels. And can I just I have to reiterate, because I feel really passionately about the common misconception that children don't socialise or experience real-life events outside of a playground. The reality for me is that actually my children don't have one nuclear set of friends. They go to lots of different clubs and are in lots of different social circumstances where they develop their socialising skills in a really positive, brilliant way, just as much, I believe, as at school. And they're not being sheltered from the world. In fact, to have one education for every single child can be seen to be sheltering and not necessarily in...
Stacey, can I ask, your boys are how old now? They're
11 and 7.
So they will be at a point where secondary school type age. Would you consider them then going back into the system at that point? And if that is the case, why then? Why do you think at that stage that is beneficial as opposed to now?
I always said when I took the boys out of school, school wasn't working for them at that time. There are plenty of children who I think really benefit from the school system, and it can be incredible for lots and lots of children, but for some it just doesn't work, and it isn't a one-size-fits-all.
I think this is the growth of the Me Too parents taking over, and parents thinking that they know better than the schools, and parents knowing better than experts in so many ways.
You would rather your child be at a failing school or a school that isn't doing them, giving them the education that they deserve.
The only way that school will improve if all the parents get together and all the parents work with the school. And this has happened time and time again in this country.
That is difficult, though, isn't it, Janet?
Well, it's all very well taking your children out, and you can afford to do that.
I am very privileged. I do feel I'm in a privileged position.
The only way that our educational system will improve is if teachers are paid more, teachers are supported more, parents get more involved in education, parents turn up at parent-teacher meetings, parents stop moaning about the school not being good enough, and parents working 100% to bring that school up.
I totally agree with you.
Not taking their kids out and sticking them in a bedroom at home.
No. That's not how home education works. I don't stick my children in a bedroom.
Stacey, can I ask you, because that is interesting. I'm completely new to this, the homeschooling thing, and actually you can do it much easier than I thought. You can just take your child out of school and decide to do it at home. I didn't think it was as easy as that. So what is the day? What is the school day? What is the breakdown of how you do it?
It's not rigid. Loads of people do it differently. It's not a one... you don't follow a regime the same...
Who does yours, for example? Who does the teaching?
Me, my mum, and we have a tutor. We all share it between us. There are certain things I couldn't teach my children.
According to a curriculum.
I want them. We do follow the curriculum, because like you said, when at any point, if my children want to get back into the school system, I want them to have
the level.
I wonder, actually, when your child is going, say, at the age of 11 or 12, how difficult will that be, having been homeschooled, to actually suddenly join a throng of maybe 500 or 800 children at one school? Do you think that'll be difficult?
What does make people feel that it's so... I mean, you're talking about child resilience, but then you're saying, don't put them back into school because it could be scary.
But there wasn't a great thing about school was you had teachers you hated. Your kids have only got a tutor, you...
Trust me.
And your mum.
They can still hate that.
But what I'm saying is one of the great things about going to school was forming gangs and saying, that teacher's horrible, and you had all your little likes and dislikes. And, I read my old school reports and, my goodness, I hated some of those teachers. But out of that experience, I did become, I believe, a more rounded person. And the idea of just going to museums with my mum and dad, or museums with a group of people, or art galleries, it wasn't like... It was better to sit in a classroom.
Can I say on your behalf, having met her boys, they're incredibly well-rounded, intelligent, wonderful, great personality little children, but they really, really are. No, because you're not going to say that, but I can. So what I'm trying to say is you're doing something right.
Listen, I think... you can only do what you think is right at the time. I think if you considered having a child and you realised, I loved school and I still love the school system, I'm so proud to be in a country where you have a free education and a right to it, and I think it's so important. My children weren't... My eldest especially was not doing well in the school system, and I had a choice to make, and that choice was either leaving there because I truly believe in the school system and I want to get behind it, or, put him in a different situation and see if it works better. And I think that that's all you can do as a parent is...